Hey everyone, thanks for joining me this week. My name is Laura Adams. I'm a personal finance expert and author who's been hosting the Money Girl podcast since 2008. If you're building a business or maybe you're just looking for ways to earn more income, I would love for you to check out my recent book. It's called Money Smart Solopreneur, a personal finance system for freelancers, entrepreneurs, and side hustlers. It was an Amazon #1 new release. And of course, you can get it at Amazon and everywhere books are sold, either as a paperback, ebook, or audiobook. If you've been enjoying Money Girl, please take a moment to subscribe, maybe even submit a review. That really helps new listeners understand what the show's all about. And if you've got a money question or a comment, you can leave a message 24/7 on my voicemail line. Just call 302-364-0308. And you can email me directly using my contact page at lauradadams.com, or you can connect on Instagram at Laura D. Adams. The mission here on Money Girl is pretty simple. It's just to help you get the knowledge and motivation to prioritize your finances, build wealth, and have a lot more security and less stress. That's really what it's all about. It's learning how to use your precious financial resources wisely so you enjoy life today, but you're also taking care of your future. That's never been more important. So today's show was inspired by several questions I've received from listeners about various buy now, pay later offers, or BNPL, as you'll see it called. These buy now, pay later offers are becoming a lot more popular. You're seeing them at checkout carts online, maybe even in local stores. You all have asked about whether they really are interest-free, how they compare with using a credit card, and the pros and cons. So if you're ready to understand more about BNPL and whether these offers are right for you, please stay with me to chat about everything you need to know related to BNPL. I interviewed Bill Walsh. He's the Chief Customer Officer for Sunbit. Bill and I had a great conversation about the current buy now, pay later landscape and tips for using those offers to help your financial life instead of hurt it. Here are a few of the topics that Bill and I cover on this week's show. We talk about the two primary types of buy now, pay later offers that you can use, and this is super important to understand the differences. We cover how a BNPL purchase compares to a credit card. We talk about Sunbit's recent survey that shows some information about how inflation is affecting how Americans are making essential purchases. We talk about the types of purchases you should and shouldn't make using any BNPL offer, what to consider before choosing the best financing option, how using a BNPL option affects your credit health. We talk about where you can find local merchants that offer BNPL for necessary purchases like auto repair, dental work, eye care, and veterinary services. All right, here's my interview with Bill. Bill, thank you so much for coming on the Money Girl podcast. I have been really excited about chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about buy now, pay later, the landscape. What's going on in the industry? It really seems to be growing. And I have a lot of people ask me, is this good? Is this bad? How are all of these different options different? Tell me a little bit about the landscape right now.
It's actually a great question because there isn't really one definition, and it can be really confusing even for people who work in the industry. Big picture, I would say that it's a modern evolution of a pretty timeless concept, which is it's taking a loan to purchase something today and pay for it over time. Many traditional ways that this has been offered in the past. So if you remember store credit, that was a form of buy now, pay later, purchase installment loans. I would argue my first experience in the industry was 20 years ago when I furnished my first apartment and purchased a couch on a store installment plan at Bob's Furniture in Boston. And of course, if you think of the last 30 or 40 years, credit cards have become a very popular way to purchase now, pay later. But when people talk about it today, when BNPL or buy now, pay later, what they usually mean are digital offerings to really do the same thing. And in the industry today, there's really two big types. The first is what are sometimes called pay in four type plans or programs. Companies like Klarna or Afterpay are big providers here, and these are often used to make relatively small purchases and to split those payments over a short period of time. Typically, four payments, one every 2 weeks, oftentimes interest free. And then the second type is for financing larger purchases, oftentimes for a longer period of time. So think of companies like Affirm or Sunbit that help finance purchases that can be larger and often over several months, which may or may not include interest in the plan.
That's very helpful. You're saying we've got two different business models, mainly in the industry. And so people need to be aware of that. They're not all just splitting payments into 4 or 6 payments. You may have the option to maybe do a short-term loan or even a longer-term loan in some cases.
That's right. And as you mentioned, you had said that you're getting a lot of questions about it. I'm not surprised. In the past few years, this space has exploded, and you can buy now, pay later almost anything now, from essential needs like getting your car fixed to extravagant luxuries like engagement rings or vacations. And to kind of get a sense of that, Sunbit recently partnered with the Harris Poll to learn about buy now, pay later in the United States, and what we found was that 22% of respondents have used buy now, pay later, and that 73% were at least familiar with it, meaning that there's a lot of awareness. It's sort of, if you're listening to us right now, you've probably heard of buy now, pay later, and for people who use it, buy now, pay later is popular. The average customer that's used buy now, pay later, more than 70% have used it more than once. And the most common feelings that folks have after using it are that of being relieved and happy, more than half. So the reason for that, I think, is really because it's kind of twofold. It, when done in the right way, it can really be a win-win. Retailers love buy now, pay later because it helps their customers afford purchases that they otherwise might not have been able to, and either improves their sales or helps them serve their customers. And the way that buy now, pay later works can be a lot easier and faster than some of those traditional options that I mentioned, like store credit or even store cards. For customers love buy now, pay later because in addition to making things more affordable, it's very straightforward. Buy now, pay later payment plans are almost always equal installments, meaning that you know exactly what and when you're going to pay. And for the purchase, it has a clear payoff date. You know when it's going to be paid. And so that is not always true for things like credit cards, for example. And so, put those two things together and you can see why buy now, pay later has been really exploding in popularity.
Yeah, you make a good point. If you finance a big purchase on a credit card, depending on how long it takes you to pay off that purchase, in some cases you could end up paying double, even triple the original purchase price. And that is just really astounding to think about, paying all that interest over time. And it just kind of gets lumped into a balance perhaps that you're carrying. And, you really don't realize that that purchase has become very expensive if you're letting it roll over from month to month on the credit card. So I do think, as you mentioned, the buy now, pay later, it's just a clean way to understand what you have purchased, understand what your monthly obligation is, and when it will be completely paid off. So I love that.
Yep, that's it. You've got it.
In terms of Sunbit specifically, how does your buy now, pay later offer work? If somebody is in, let's say, a dentist office and they say, oh, we've got this, wonderful financing option, Sunbit, or someone sees that Sunbit logo at the point of purchase, what can they expect? What does the process look like on the buyer's side?
Sunbit approached buy now pay later a little bit differently because we built Sunbit uniquely focused on those everyday needs and services versus some of those more nice to haves or wants. So like you said, think car repair or being in the dentist office versus designer clothes on the internet. And so the what that means is that the process was really designed to work in that type of environment. So think you're in the store, you get some bad news, you need to have a crown put in today, and that's going to cost $900. But you have some good news is that you don't have to pay for it all today because your dentist works with Sunbit, and you will have some affordable options to consider. It takes 30 seconds or less to learn what those options are, and it involves almost no data entry. You just need a driver's license and a debit card. And so we'll take a picture of the driver's license, and Sunbit will use that to do what is called a soft credit check, which means we'll check credit in a way that has no impact on your credit score. The inquiry is visible only to you. And then right there on the spot, you'll see your personalized offers. So we'll see, Laura, you can afford this $900 treatment in perhaps 3, 6, or 12 monthly payments of $300, $150, or maybe $110. And the thing that's really unique about us is because of the way that Sunbit uses the data from the credit check, from the store, from the practice, from even the specific items being purchased, we're able to generate an offer that is personalized to you in this store at this time for this exact purchase. And the power that brings is that we're really able to offer something compelling to everybody, regardless of your situation. Sunbit offers financing that includes interest-free plans all the way to affordable payment options for folks who otherwise would be typically turned down by in-store financing, which is pretty unique in the space.
Yeah, it is. Tell me a little bit about interest free. I think a lot of people would say that sounds way too good to be true. Who's benefiting? Who's getting the good end of this deal if there's no interest getting charged?
That's a great question, and I think that for Sunbit, in this case, remember we're able to offer this because this is a win-win for both the retailer or the practice and the consumer. And so I think for example, in that dentistry example, the dentist actually will contribute to and pay Sunbit a small fee for offering that interest-free plan because it'll help that dentist service more of their patients. And in fact, there's such a pretty considerable lift in terms of what customers can afford when they're able to take something and break it up into smaller payments that it's definitely worth it for the practice to pay that fee because otherwise the customer may defer the treatment. I think that it's interesting that you bring that up because another really fascinating thing that we found in our customer survey about the buy now pay later landscape is that customers are really interested in buy now, pay later for necessary services like the dentistry example you gave, especially with the current economic backdrop of high inflation and uncertainty. I'm sure you saw, the numbers today. Inflation isn't slowing down at all. And it's been well known that many households don't have the ability to cover a $400 emergency expense. But with this extra pressure, we're really seeing that we saw 79% of our respondents said that they've cut back on discretionary spending, so these wants in order to save for the things that they truly need. But what was even more surprising, to me at least, was that 2/3 of our respondents said that they've delayed necessary services, like 27% have delayed home repairs, 27% have delayed dental work because of this real affordability challenge in the environment today. And so I think that's one of the reasons why, we're really motivated to be there for not just customers, but for, retailers and the communities, because buy now, pay later options like Sunbit are even more valuable than ever.
I was also really shocked by that number. I think 67% saying they're cutting back on necessary purchases is really telling. It shows us that Americans are really hurting right now. If you're willing to put off car repair, you're willing to put off maybe, getting eyeglasses or going to the doctor or dentist, doing repairs at home. I mean, those are very significant purchases that can really improve or decrease your quality of life. Not to mention maybe not being able to get to work if your car isn't reliable, or feeling like you're in pain, not feeling well during the day can certainly impact your ability to work and earn an income. So those numbers are pretty astounding. What you're telling me is that having the ability to spread out the purchase over time for some consumers may make the difference between getting that service or not getting that service. And, some people may say, well, why not just put it on a credit card? I think that a lot of people don't know that, many people don't have credit cards. Many people may not have the best credit, or they may be new. They may be building credit for the very first time. They may have just gone through a divorce and have never had an account in their own name and don't have credit, don't have their own credit card. So everybody is in a very different position when it comes to being able to finance a big purchase. I love the idea of using buy now, pay later for necessities versus luxury items. I think that spreading out the purchase of a luxury item can get dangerous, because you're going to maybe think you can afford a lot more than you truly can, and that can catch up with you. So that's my personal advice. I don't know how you feel about it, Bill. What tips would you give people when they're trying to decide how to finance a big purchase, particularly something necessary? How do you all think about it at Sunbit? What is your ideal customer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that look, of course, we've tried to build what we think is the best solution for as many people as possible, and I think that buy now, pay later, especially for essentials, can be a great option, especially when it means avoiding deferring essential needs. Buy now, pay later is usually very transparent and can be less expensive than other options. Unlike traditional store credit, it's very fast and it's inclusive. You can understand what you qualify for right away. And in the case of a company like Sunbit, we have built our solution to give a personalized offer to nearly everyone. And then, unlike a credit card with a Sunbit payment plan, you know exactly what you're going to pay up front, with simple, affordable payments and no surprises, no hidden fees, no other gotchas. And so if someone's considering using a buy now, pay later offer, the advice that I would give is that, look, buy now, pay later can be a great option. But do remember, buy now, pay later is a loan. And even though it's easy, repayment can impact things like your credit history, and that multiple purchases can add up and be a lot to stay on top of. And so when you're looking at a buy now, pay later loan, definitely consider your options, and look for a provider or a company that is transparent, and know in advance if there are any potential fees or surprises on the road. So even these interest-free pay-in-4 plans can get pretty expensive if not repaid on time, because a lot carry things like late fees or penalties if anything changes. And so, again, with Sunbit, the way we've designed the product is to be very clear and transparent up front. Every offer is personalized to you and to the purchase, which I think is a great way to kind of balance both being affordable but then also being responsible, so that folks don't end up getting overextended.
Absolutely. So thinking about it as a short-term loan, so someone needs to be committed to making that payment on time each month. And if they do, it's really going to help them build credit. That can help them improve their finances down the road, just like paying off any other type of loan or revolving line of credit. Paying on time will help you build credit. So yes, being committed to getting it paid off on time. And you mentioned fees. What is a reasonable fee? How should somebody think about buy now, pay later? What is it costing them? When you compare it to a high rate credit card, it can certainly be a lot less expensive. But does that rate depend on your income and credit? How is that sort of determined in the way you're evaluating potential participants?
Yeah, I think across the industry, you see all sorts of different types. There are some buy now, pay laters which are perform very few credit checks or even no credit checks and therefore aren't really providing personalized offers. And where I think you see that come up is there will be a lot of fees associated with the product and things that you really need to be aware of and make sure that you're reading all the terms and conditions before signing up. For Sunbit, for example, that's definitely, we've chosen to go in a different direction with that. I think with Sunbit, we don't charge any fees. We don't have any real hidden parts of the plan. What you'll see in your offer is your payments, which may include interest, and the total amount that you'll pay over the life of the loan. And so the important thing to look at with any buy now, pay later, or actually any interest bearing loan at all is that the rate that you pay and how long you're going to be repaying. Oftentimes there's a trade-off between the longer the loan, the higher the interest rate and the more interest that you might pay. But on the same token, you have to be, as you mentioned, really aware of your situation and what you can afford, because even a longer loan with smaller payments may be better for you than a loan that is shorter and maybe less expensive on paper, but that you struggle to afford or that is going to really put pressure on your budget when you're looking at. So I think the most important thing really to do is just know your options. One of the great things that I think Buy Now Pay Later has done for the whole space of purchase financing is bringing a whole nother level of transparency and simplicity to the process. And so it's probably easier than ever to be informed. Most of the buy now pay laters like Sunbit let you see your options with no commitment or impact to your credit score. And so you're able to really get the information to understand what's going to be best for you and to take advantage of this tool, especially for the things that really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a tool. And I would encourage folks to visit sunbit.com. You may be surprised by the wide variety of different types of services that Sunbit is available. So, Bill, maybe just give us an idea of just general types of, services and products where people may find Sunbit. And of course, they can maybe go to Sunbit first if they know, hey, I've got a dentist visit I need coming up, or I've got a car repair. Maybe they want to choose that provider based on whether they offer Sunbit or not.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that Sunbit is focused, as I mentioned, on those everyday needs and services. So some of the big areas where you should look for us would be in auto repair, auto service, where Sunbit is in more than one out of every three auto dealer service centers in the United States and is the official partner of most of the major auto OEMs in the US, as well as uh, dentistry, optical services, home services, and veterinary. So there's a directory at Sunbit's website where we list all of our merchant partners where you can find Sunbit today. And if your favorite doesn't already have us, look us up and spread the word.
Yeah, absolutely. Let the provider know, hey, I heard about Sunbit. Maybe you should get involved with them, that they might be somebody who would be appropriate to
Well,
offer it.
a lot of our some of our best merchant relationships come about that way, where because I think it's important to remember that you mentioned who benefits. Oftentimes, Sunbit and Buy Now Pay Later is really a key part of helping merchants thrive in communities, especially when you think of the types of folks that we focus on servicing. These are people in your community, right? Like the dentist, like the car repair store, like the veterinarian that also want to be there for their customers and for the people who really need these services. And so if offering Sunbit sort of helps make those connections, then that's something that I think again is really beneficial for everybody.
Bill, thank you so much. This has been really interesting. And I know that I believe wholeheartedly in having more options for consumers. That's what it's all about. The more options we have as consumers, the more we win, right? The more choices we have. So, this is one tool in your tool belt. And I would encourage you to really think about how can you create the best situation for a necessary purchase? How can you make it cost as little as possible? That's the idea. You don't want to go without your car repair or your dentist visit. These are very important services, but you do want to evaluate how to make it cost as little as possible. And I think it's fantastic that Sunbit can not only decrease the interest, but give you a repayment term that fits your budget. You get to decide, what is it going to be for me? Can I do it in 3 months? Do I need 6 months? Do I need a year? You get to really look at those payment terms, and then decide, what feels comfortable for me right now. It's an awesome service. I appreciate you explaining it and giving us a little bit more background on the industry.
Yeah, thank you, Laura.
Again, a big thanks to Bill for sharing your insight into the BNPL industry. Before we go, I want to invite you to connect with me on Twitter at Laura Adams, or again on Instagram. That one's got a D in the middle, Laura D. Adams. And I hope you'll visit lauradadams.com, where you can use my contact page and learn more about my work, books, and money courses. That's all for now. I'll talk to you next week. Until then, here's to living a richer life. Money Girl is a quick and dirty tips podcast. It's audio engineered by Steve Rickyberg with editing by Adam Cecil. Our advertising operations specialist is Morgan Christensen. Our digital operations specialist is Holly Hutchins. Our marketing and publicity assistant is Davina Tomlin. And our intern is Brendan Pika.